So how do you get that velvety, silky smooth bass tone? That typical sound you get in neo soul, R&B, that really dubby stuff that gives stank faces going all around the room. I'm going to show you how to get a slick, glossy R&B tone with your current bass without buying a single piece of new equipment, and it doesn't matter whether the bass is active or passive. So let's go. It's all there. So what on earth is that slick R&B sound? What on earth am I talking about? Well, you can check out this video here. I got many comments on this through Facebook and YouTube and Instagram about how did I get that warm tone, and recently someone's DM'd me asking about how do I set up my bass. So hopefully this will help merge all of those things together and give you a better idea of how I think about tone, how I go about getting different sounds out of my instruments, and how you can take that and apply it to any bass you're working with. So the sound, these type of notes, people don't just hear these notes, they feel them, okay? These notes are the sorts of ones that rumble through your body. So the quick lowdown on how to get this sound is cut treble, reduce fret noise, and have a heavy but not overpowering low end, okay? How can you do this with your bass? Let's go. Step one. Use the neck or both pickups. Any pickup closer to the neck is going to have a warmer but less defined sound, and the closer to the bridge you go, you're going to have less low end and more mid-range coming through. So it's going to be a lot more punchy and direct and in your face sounding, which is not what we want for this sound. So if you got a bass, stick with a neck pickup, or I actually prefer to use both neck and bridge on a jazz, but if you've got a double humbucker bass, maybe just go with the neck. And if you got a P, well, you don't really have a choice, but we've got some other things on the list that will allow your P to sound real meaty. Now, one thing to watch is that as we go through this list, it's going to be very easy to overdo all these steps and end up with just a big muddy sound with no definition whatsoever that it just doesn't sound good. We don't necessarily want to lose all the articulation, so the key is to use your ear, hear how these things affect your bass with your own playing, because a lot of the sound is in the fingers, okay? A lot of the tone is in the fingers, but there's little things we can do to make things sound more the way we're looking for. So this is me playing with the neck pickup, the neck and bridge pickup blended equally, and I'm using my thumb. So this is another way you can get a dubby warm sound, is using your thumb to play the notes and use a bit of palm muting too. So there's an extra tip really. This is more like 10 than 9, but if you get your thumb going to play the notes whilst resting your palm on the strings, you can get a really warm sound and still get some punch and articulation in there. Or you can use your fingers, okay, and you're going to get more of that higher end and fret noise in there. It's all really personal preference and knowing what sort of sound you're going for. If I were to go neck pickup, and then if I was to go all the way to the bridge pickup, you're going to hear the instant shift in the mids, less low end and more punch and nasal sounding in the bass. Okay, so all a lot more nasally in the sound there. Again, both together. I've not changed any other settings. That is literally just between choosing which pickup. So even just in that one selection alone, you got so much range in there. So from now on, I'm gonna stick using both pickups equally. Step 2. The closer you play with your right hand towards the neck is the more warm sound you're gonna have, and there'll be less definition in there. That's typically how we can get more of a woolly sound or more of a Motown sound. If you go closer to the bridge, again, you're further accentuating that mid-range and the less low end, but more articulation and punch. Okay, so if I start with both pickups but playing towards the bridge, you'll have a sound something like this. Now if I move right up to the neck, we're going to have a much warmer sound, less top end, less cut in there. You got that? Compared to... So these are all tools you can use to kind of tweak your sound as you go. Now there are some players who prefer to sit down here and they'll use a combination of other techniques on this list to get the sound that they want, and they'll just have a bit more articulation and a bit more punch within that than if they were playing towards the neck. Step 3. This is the passive bass step, and if you got a P bass, this is where you want to be, and it's simply just rolling your tone off. Now depending on the bass and your own sound, you may want to roll it all the way off, you may want to not roll it off at all. So everything you've heard so far, the tone has been fully on, okay? Now I'm going to roll the tone off. I'm going to just roll it off all the way for this, to be honest. Okay, and there's still a fair bit of fret buzz, but if I was going more in, I would go with my thumb. And right there, it's that instant funk, it's that instant dubby, neo-soul-y, groovy sound there, because we've taken off that top end. Step 4. Now you're probably thinking, Caleb, that doesn't sound as much neo-soul-y as it does before. Maybe the thumb, but your finger playing sounds a bit rough, okay? And now there's a particular reason why I've done this. One of the things that can catch us off guard sometimes is actually just our nail length. Cutting your nails. If you've got a bit of nail on the end there, when you're playing, your nail's gonna catch that string and it's gonna give you more clicking sound, a more high-end click that you don't want for this sort of thing. Get yourself a set of nail clippers, cut your nails. I'm gonna cut my nails on this hand and I'll be back. Now, hopefully, we're now gonna hear an audible difference just by cutting the nails. Next, finger playing angle, okay? If we are more on top of our strings like this, fingers going straight down and playing, let's see if I can show you. Playing through the strings like this, as opposed to almost brushing over them like that and pulling down on them, you're going to get more of a warmth, whereas plucking like this, you're going to get a shorter but more articulated note. Let's stop hitting the strings so hard. Stop hitting the strings, we can... It actually still sounds pretty decent because the tone's rolled off, but if I just play with a bit more finesse, you get a lot more of that warmth and controlled sound in there. So everything so far you can do on a passive bass. You can do it on your bass if you've got an active bass. So me, I've got my Sire, so I'm going to switch to active mode, but you can also do it on the EQ settings on your amp, okay? So we're now active and I'm going to set everything as flat as I can. First thing I'll do is cut the high end, but not too much. We still want the bass to sound like a bass, but we can just cut the high end. Now for me, you're gonna have to play around with the preamps on your own basses and see how they react for you, but for me, I would probably simply cut from where it is now. That one there, there's even just simply a tiny bit down for me. We're right there. We are right there with that sound already. That's good to go. But again, I could switch my thumb in there for an even softer. I don't even know how to describe it. It's all there. So there's still a bit of articulation. You can hear each note, you can hear the playing of each note, but we've now got that glossy, thick, smooth sound. Next thing you can do is play with the mids. If you're still not happy with it, you can cut the high mids. So we've got on the Sire bass, if you've not fully worked out how to use it yet, the stacked pot here, the lower one is the frequency. You can kind of play to a higher frequency, and what you can do is you can cut the high mids. So just cut the high mids. And then you can even, if we go thumb again, this is going to sound super fat and disgusting. I typically do something different because I find when you cut mids a lot, your bass then becomes a lot less present in the context of a band. Soloed sounds amazing, but in the context of the band and hearing everything else, it kind of fades away a bit. So rather than cutting the high mids, I might put a boost on the low mids, and sometimes I'll boost the low mids instead of boosting the bass, depending on the room and how everything's sounding already. Selecting the low end of the mids, boosting that. We started with thumb, so I'll go thumb again. And fingers. Oh, power. Now the final thing I will do is, of course, boost the low end. Now it's boosting it by a tasteful amount. It's very easy to overdo the low end and have your sound just sound muddy and overpowering, which this could arguably be falling into right now, but I would never normally do everything all at once. I'd test and play depending on how everything's sitting. Just a very slight boost from where it is now to about there. That's typically enough for me. I rarely have to go past that. With a thumb. If that's not a beautiful, silky, thick, double cream, glossy, neo soul, R&B tone. I don't know what it is, but this is how I get the tone. You can take everything I've done there, put it into steps for your own playing and see how it gels with you, see how it all fits with your playing. Again, a lot of the sound is here in these 5 fingers and these 4. So work on your own technique, play around with it, get to grips with thumb, with left hand muting, hand positioning, pick selection, placement on the neck, and get some fun playing, muted, palm muted fun playing under your hands, because that's a killer weapon, really and truly. That's kind of like the ultimate, just technique alone way to get it, but that's how I get the tone. This is my Sire bass, Generation 1. I've had a few of you guys DM me saying you guys have bought the bass based on the videos. Subscribe for more videos like this if you enjoy bass content, if you enjoy bass tips, tutorials, bass life in general. Hang around the channel, join the community, get involved in the comments, let me know how this works for you and which one of the 9 to 10 ways, because I ended up throwing in a couple extras, that you find works best for you. So until next time guys, stay bass cleft.